we wait for my slides, let me introduce myself. So my name is Natalie Berkman, and as Ferrell mentioned, I work for Quest Education Group. You probably haven't heard of it. Why? Because it's relatively new. So I'll actually start with a sort of shameless plug. Well, actually, no. I would like to start with this quote here, and then I will start with a description of Quest and what we do. Some of you might have heard of Philip W. Jackson. Some of you might have just heard the term hidden curriculum, but I wanted to start with this term because I think it's a really important concept to think about, especially as we're all considering our pedagogy. So this quote comes straight from the source. The first time the term hidden curriculum was used in print, he writes, "The crowds, the praise, and the power that combine to give a distinctive flavor to classroom life collectively form a hidden curriculum, which each student must master if he is to make his way satisfactorily through the school." Why do I bring this up? I think, as we all know, as teachers, as pedagogues, there's a lot we try to put into our curricula, but there's also a lot that remains implicit, that's hidden. And that's why what I'm going to present today is just one of the ways that at Quest we're trying to take that implicit and make it more explicit. How can we make sure that all students have the same footing and have the same preparation? Quest Education Group, what is it? We're a relatively young group in France. I'm not sure if it's the case everywhere, but there tends to be educational groups. Quest, we focus on two major things. We have two schools. One is called Gaming Campus, where we have programs for what we call G-Tech, so development of video games, G-Business, which is a business school that's specifically specialized for video games and how to sell them, and G-Art, which is for that artistic part, digital sculpting, everything like that. Our second school is called Guardia, Cybersecurity School, where we offer BSCs and MSCs specifically tailored to the cybersecurity industry. Our motto is Tech Schools for Good, because our goal is really to train students in these disciplines that are changing and rapidly evolving and extremely important to all of our lives and to our well-being and entertainment as well. We currently have three, I'd say, campuses. We have 3 sites in Lyon with about 1,400 students. That's the original campus, 6 years old. We have Paris, which just opened 2 years ago, already has 500 students, and Bordeaux, which we just opened in September, which is 2 months old and already with 50 students. Why am I giving all this background? It's going to be important later, I promise. It's not just a shameless plug. But it's really to say that we are a vocational school, so a little bit different from a traditional university setting. We've got 3 basic pillars for how we function. The first is technology for good. We focus on creative fields like video games, sectors like cybersecurity that are critical to our safety, fields that contribute to our overall well-being. We have our DNA. Basically, if you go to our website, there's literally a page called DNA that is just a description of project-based learning. Our 100% focus on innovative pedagogy, 100% project-based approach. Our students start first week, they have what we call an immersion week, where we invite professionals from the sectors to tell them what their life is going to be like after the school. And then from day 1 after that, projects. They start making video games. They start working on Capture the Flags and other cybersecurity projects. 100% of our instructors come from the target industries, and they come for periods of 1 to 3 weeks to work on these projects with the students and ensure that they're doing work that is not only exciting and interesting and pedagogically relevant, but really relevant to the industry. And our third pillar is employability in these critical sectors. We chose these sectors because they're in exponential development. We actually have an entire department devoted to employability, and the project that I'm going to present is a collaboration between the academics and the employability department. And the thing that I think is most important to underline is that we deliver professional certifications from the French Ministry of Labor rather than the Ministry of Education. These are recognized as the equivalents of traditional degrees. Students leave with ECTS credits, for instance. But the system's a little bit different. And I'll get back to that a little later. So what are our methods? Well, basically, due to the constraints of these French Ministry of Labor degrees, it is a requirement for us and for the students that they find jobs, which sounds very innovative, but it's actually just the way it is. Basically, in order for us to obtain and maintain our certifications, students need to graduate and get a job within 6 months or a year of graduating with the proper title, the proper salary. We need to follow up with the students to make sure they've gotten those jobs, and then whenever we renew our certifications every 5 years, we need to make sure that these students are being employed in the proper sectors with the proper titles and salaries. And so because of that, we have three methods to ensure that students are career ready. First, our academic programs, which I mentioned before, are 100% project-based, using only real-world examples, an active learning philosophy. Literally, our students on day one have to sign a little contract about active learning to make sure that they're really playing the game properly. And all of the teachers are industry professionals who come and intervene they basically take a week off from their normal jobs in their video game studios or cybersecurity field, and they come in and do a project as coaches for the students. The second method is professional experience. In our programs, it's mandatory for the students. In their first 3 years, they're required to do internships. The first 2 months over the summer. The third year, they have to do a 3-month internship. And then in their final 2 years, they have to do a paid apprenticeship program in parallel with their studies. And our third one is these employability fundamentals. We have a dedicated career services that's part of our employability department. They offer group workshops, individual coaching, career events, and now we have this great asynchronous program that I'm going to discuss. So what I'm going to talk, so that was all a very long-winded introduction to say, I'm going to explain this blended hybrid program that we've created. I'm going to talk a little bit about how we developed this curriculum and how we've integrated it directly into our academic curriculum. I'm going to discuss a bit of the instructional design that went into it, the first results, because it's very new, we actually launched it about a month ago, and applicability in other contexts. Basically, how can you guys do the same thing? So first, for the curriculum design. We had a few challenges that we were thinking. Quest, as you can see, 6 years, we went from a very small little specialized business school to a group of schools across 3 cities with 2,000 students. So we have a few challenges. One, in most universities, traditional career centers function as sort of consultants. They're there and students can go to them. I don't know about you, but I know that when I was at college, I knew there was a career services, but I don't think I ever went. And then I went on and did my PhD, and that was when I decided I should probably go to career services. So we have our career services. It's probably more active than most in a traditional university setting, since our students know that there's this pressure to get their internships and their apprenticeships. But it's true that they're still functioning a bit like consultants. The students can come as often as they'd like. However, since our educational model requires students carry out these internships and the apprenticeship, it's extremely important that they attend their coaching sessions, that they attend the events that are organized. Furthermore, as I mentioned, our students' job placement rates need to be excellent, given the requirements of French certifications. Typically, we say about 80% of students need to have found a job within the first 6 months to a year upon graduation with that proper title and the proper salary. And the last point that I think we all recognize, our team has a limited bandwidth. We actually just increased the size of our career services, so we've got about 6 full-time employees. But with 2,000 plus students, we need to scale up, and we need to have more things available asynchronously for the students. So what does that have to do with the hidden curriculum that I started with earlier? Well, students at Quest, they have a number of skills they need to learn. They need to learn the industry knowledge. They need to learn C++ if they're going into programming. They need to learn how to use Maya and do the digital sculpting. They need to learn all of the cybersecurity fundamentals. They have this they have these technical skills that they need to master. They also have to master soft skills, which are increasingly important even in these tech fields. We actually had someone from Ubisoft, the big video games industry that makes Assassin's Creed, who came and spoke to our students recently in the context of this program, and who talked specifically about how they're starting to prefer students who have a bit more soft skills and a bit fewer hard skills, because it's a lot easier to teach hard skills on the job than soft skills. But there's also employability skills the students need to learn, and I would argue that these tend to be part of this hidden curriculum. The students at our schools, they all work on real-world projects throughout their studies. They build that industry knowledge, their technical and their soft skills. Throughout these projects, they're often working in groups, they're often evaluating each other, lots of peer-to-peer feedback. They have to present their work at the end of each project. They're getting all of those first three, but I think that those employability skills really constitute our hidden curriculum. So if we zoom in, what is really part of this hidden curriculum? Well, first, applying to jobs. The job search in general. What kind of jobs do you want? So what kind of jobs are there? What are the titles, especially in these industries that people don't know a lot about? I mean, everyone's played video games. We all know that video games now are even passing cinema as the #1 entertainment. It's huge, but not a lot of people know much about what goes into making video games. And there's a huge number of distinct professions available in this industry. We actually do research and publish every year a guide of the different careers that are available in both video games and cybersecurity, and our books keep getting longer and longer every year. So what kind of jobs are there? How do you write a CV, a cover letter, your LinkedIn? How do you interview? Your professional portfolio, very important in these tech fields. Salary and benefits negotiation, important for us too, since our students need to leave and get the right salary. Career planning, types of contracts, how to network, how to treat social media professionally, personal branding. Some students naturally do it well, others don't, but I think we could all agree that these are things that we can make more explicit, and that way everyone can succeed. And finally, professional norms, time management, productivity, professional ethics, showing initiatives, adaptability, presenting reports to students, colleagues, superiors. So ultimately, the solution we found was creating a hybrid and a blended curriculum, 22 modules, a total of 52 hours of student time over the 5 years of their program. So it's actually not that much work. It's not that intensive for our students, and we designed it specifically to be that way. There's 3 parts to every one of these modules. First consists of an e-learning capsule. About 20 minutes, I'd say even more, 15. They're built in the tool called Genially. I don't know if anyone's used Genially here. It's a very easy to use tool. It's relatively cheap. There's some authoring tools that you can do more exciting things on, but I really truly think that Genially is definitely going to take over some of those. It's really exciting, very easy to use. Branded themes, so we've got versions for the video games that actually look like retro gaming. I'll show you in a bit. And another version that we're calling Guardians or Guardians theme. I wanted hacker, but it turns out that's not the right stereotype to use with cybersecurity. And a number of formative assessments that we can track the student progress all throughout. The second third, is a summative assessment. We take a project-based approach. Students have to do a sort of individual personal project based on the content of the e-learning capsule with that scaffolding built in, and they get feedback from the employability team. And then finally, each module ends with a 1-hour-long masterclass that we have live on our proprietary platform with an industry professional, for instance, the HR woman from Ubisoft that I mentioned before, giving industry-specific and actionable advice for students. So they can really see the relationship between what they're doing and how it's going to impact their future careers. So this approach, we've got this hybrid and blended, a plurality of learning formats. We've got an active learning and a project-based approach. It's micro-learning because they're relatively short. They're even gamified. And I would also add it's just-in-time learning in the sense that the first module the students do, for instance, is understanding the job market in general. The second one is how to make a CV. The third is how to write a cover letter. Why? Because at the end of that first semester, we need them applying to internships. Every single module they get when they need that content. So that's the part for the curriculum design. Now, how did we actually design these e-learning capsules? So first, I wanted to make sure that the content was relevant. I didn't want this to be just another generic thing about how to make a CV, especially since, as I mentioned, these are vocational schools. Our students know what they want to do. They can do a sort of generic engineering school and still become a games developer if they want. But these students are studying with us because they specifically know that that's what they want. Same with cybersecurity. You can attend an art school or a business school and not necessarily know that you want to sell video games or make art for video games, but our students, they really know. So I wanted to make sure that they had specific content that was based on their training program, that the programmers had the keywords that they should have for their CVs, that the game art students or the gaming business students or the cybersecurity students had that specific tailored content. So for that, we created 2 versions of each module, one that's got the sort of retro gaming feel and the other one that's got the sort of Guardian feel. This ludic design, these 2 templates that are fun, there's music, there's specific language. And third is the interactive component. The students need to click. The buttons don't appear until the videos are over. All of this to force the students to engage as much as possible and to give them a different kind of learning, because most of the time at our schools, the students are really there doing hands-on project work supervised by the industry professionals. This is a moment for them at home or on campus to sit with themselves and their thoughts and reflect on their own careers. So in these modules, there are regular knowledge checks to confirm content mastery, and there's that summative assessment again at the end of each module. So here's just one example. These are the learning outcomes from our first one for the first-year students, understanding the job market. And so by the end of this module, students will be able to identify and compare the different types of contracts and jobs in France, analyze job offers to identify the skills and qualifications required, self-assess their strengths, weaknesses, and professional objectives through a structured analysis, and translate their profile into a value proposition adapted to the expectations of a specific company. All things that I really, once again, want to emphasize are part of this hidden curriculum. They're things that often aren't taught, or if you take the time to go to career services, maybe someone can help you with, but they're not going to be taught in a classroom. Even in a school like ours, where students in the classroom are doing things that are extremely relevant to a particular field or career. And so how does this manifest in the actual things? Well, I can show you 2 examples. Perfect, thank you. So I'll just, so first things first, students need to put their name, that way we can track what they're doing. I'll just put inspired, so I know that this isn't a student doing it. Oh, wow. I've already tested it, I guess. Unfortunately, I can't play the sound, but there's cool retro gaming music. And as you can see, it looks like a video game. It's got our logo. Everything's branded. This is the French version. I'll show you the cybersecurity version we actually did in English because our head of cybersecurity thought it was so important that students speak English that he wanted these modules directly in English. But so this is our video games French version, where you've got this little avatar who walks you through every step of the way. Says, you're passionate about video games. Are you ready to transform your passion into an epic career? He's using language that's going to speak to the students. It's corny, for sure. It's supposed to be. The students know it's corny, too. But that's part of the charm, I think. So far, the students seem to like it. He's your guide all throughout. Let's look at the different quests that you're going to take. And here we've got all the different levels. As with most instructional design, the goal is for students to always know where they are and to make sure that they're not going to say, oh, this is going to take me forever. As you can see, there's just 6 levels, and they're pretty short. The names of the levels, every level is actually one of those 4 learning outcomes that I told you about, plus an introduction and a conclusion. But they're written in a way that's very learner-centric. We used inclusive language, heroes and heroines. And all throughout, so this is the introduction, so it's not quite as interactive, but there's different buttons. You can see different types of information when you click on different things. And there's also questions, multiple choice questions, surveys. Sometimes we ask students to, there's videos. There's all sorts of different types of content. And I'll turn the sound off. But so there's this lovely little video that introduces everything. And then at the end of each level, there's a little knowledge check to make sure that students have really understood that we can track as well. Sometimes the knowledge check actually asks students to give us some sort of input, tell us what your favorite video game is, tell us, find a job ad and send it to us, and we'll make sure to put it on Job Teaser, things like that. So that's the video games version, and just for fun, here's the English language. It's exactly the same content, but in a totally different language, with a Guardian guide who lets you in. Just for fun fact, she's AI generated. Actually, all of the content here is AI generated. And I can talk a little bit more about the process that went in. It actually dramatically cut production time for these modules. So yeah, if you'd like, yep. You could, perfect. So let's move on. So let me talk a little bit about the first results. So the first results are actually very, very positive. 70% of students have completed the first module, which is which is a pleasant surprise for me because since most of our programs are 100% in the classroom, live, project-based, this is the first time we're using our LMS platform in this way. So I was very, very pleased with the participation rate. The satisfaction rate, I don't like the term satisfaction, but the students seem to like it. The first 10 modules have been live for just shy of a month. The first 5 master classes were also a huge success. I still hear students talking about the Ubisoft HR person. And the students who completed the summative assessments have had more productive coaching sessions so far with our Career Center staff. So we're already starting to see the results that we wanted. And it's just the first set of modules. We get 6 a year, so we'll see some more. Here's just a bit of student feedback that I shamelessly cherry-picked. Of course, I found it great. I don't have anything to add. It's perfect, no comments. It was very well presented. I had some, obviously, that were a bit negative. Someone told me that all of the AI voices were very difficult to listen to, which made me very sad because I recorded all of the voiceovers. It was my voice, and I don't think I sound like AI, but it definitely made me reflect. And I actually, in our second version, I've reduced the number of videos because in the English language version, I had a little video that introduced every level with my voice. And it's true that I was tired of doing all those voiceovers anyway, so I will skip that next time. So what are our next steps? How do we want to keep going? Well, we've got next waves of modules and master classes to be released in this month, November, next week, next Friday, December, and then 3 in the second semester, February, March, and April. We also want to improve communication regarding the modules, as well as improve the student familiarity with our platform, because it's also as the National Academic Director, one of my goals is to make sure that we're encouraging blended learning as much as possible and using our platform. Next step for me as well would be to incorporate peer-to-peer feedback using tools like FeedbackFruits, peer assessment, self-assessment, group member assessments. How can we ensure that, how can we continue to scale? How can we make sure that by the time the students actually have a coaching session with someone in our career services, they've done a lot of work, they've already received and implemented feedback. And then eventually adapt these modules to our short courses as a bonus career readiness track. So now my last thing, and I'm sure the question you're all asking, I hope, is how can I do this in my school? Well, I'd like to start by reiterating that I do believe that employability is a bit of a hidden curriculum, that job applications, career planning, and professional norms are something that aren't typically taught or standardized or implemented within a curriculum. So I think our innovations at Quest with this project are, number one, automating career readiness as much as possible, incorporating those employability skills directly into our academic curriculum, making it a requirement for students to take these courses, these modules, and to complete all of this in parallel with their studies. The curriculum design to make that implicit hidden curriculum explicit, the instructional design to maintain engagement and to automate as much as possible, the analytics to track student progress, and the discipline-specific content to help students gain employment. But I would add the caveat to all of these innovations that we're a vocational school. It's a bit easier for us, given that our students are all studying to get the same job with the same title and the same salary. So how in a university, and that's why I kept saying so much about that at the beginning. So what is transferable in what we've done? How can you guys do the same thing? Well, I think number one, the concept of asynchronous employability modules is 100% transferable. You can make more general versions of what I've done. Number two, our AI-powered approach to the instructional design. I literally have a model for how to use ChatGPT, all of the prompts to create these modules as quickly as possible. I think at my previous job, I estimated about a week for creating the scripts for things like this. It now takes about 2 to 3 hours with AI. And so far, they're pretty good. So it drastically reduces the workload to create these modules. I think the use of Genially as the authoring tool is also something that's extremely transferable because Genially is much cheaper than more standard corporate instructional design tools, and it's much more easy to implement. You can implement it with a simple embed, even if you don't have SCORM compliance. And I think a FeedbackFruits-powered assessment strategy to continue scaling that student work using a peer-to-peer approach would also be extremely transferable. So I'd like to leave you with another quote from that same book, Life in Classrooms, from Philip W. Jackson. Indeed, many of the rewards and punishments that sound as if they are being dispensed on the basis of academic success and failure are really more closely related to the mastery of the hidden curriculum. So if we think about employability as part of a hidden curriculum, I just don't think that the rewards and punishments should be employability. I think all students should be able to get a job if they need, and because of that, I'd really love for everyone to be able to implement something similar to this and be able to raise that hidden curriculum into the realm of the explicit and make sure that our students, all of our students, can find gainful employment in whatever field they choose. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Natalie. Raise that curriculum into the realm of the explicit. I think this is a great takeaway for us, and it's beautifully phrased. So thank you so much, Natalie. As a quick anecdote, I met Natalie a year ago, a bit more, when we started our partnership with ESSEC Business School. And I think the key elements that I saw in you, Natalie, was that grit for change and for innovation, and that clearly translates into the great work that you did here at Quest Group. So thank you so much for sharing this with us. Big clap for Natalie.